and welcome. My name is Leta, and I'm your co-host here with my other co-host. I replicated him in just for this episode, and he is piping hot and ready to record. Adam, it's good to have you.
It's good to be aboard.
He's still steaming. Welcome to Star Trek Wars, your official bootleg Star Trek podcast. The episode we're reviewing tonight will be rated on a scale from 1 to 10 by us, the co-hosts, and you guys in the Star Trek Wars Council that left a rating on our Facebook page. If you wish to join the council and have your vote counted, head over to our Facebook page. You can find us by searching for Star Trek Wars. The council should pop up right at the top. There you can rate the episodes yourself and also leave a comment that could be potentially read on air. It's a great community, and we're all on there, very active, and love talking Trek with you. In the meantime, we are reviewing the 7th episode of Season 1, so let's get started. Star Trek Prodigy, Episode 7, First Con-tact. When a mentor from Dahl's past persuades him to use their Federation cover for personal gain, they quickly discover Starfleet. Thankfully, none of that this week. Starfleet has protocols for a reason. Written by Deandra Pendleton Thompson, directed by Steve Ahn and Sung Shin. Adam, do you have any initial reactions for this episode?
Yeah, I thought the narrative of Roddenberry's writers is actually quite a large number of writers in the room for this series. I Googled all of them, and half them didn't even bring anything up in Google, so...
Sneaky.
I was trying to find if there was anyone who had worked on DS9 on the staff, but I couldn't find anything. But no, I thought they're bringing in this new generation of viewers to the Star Trek universe, and of all the species to run into 7 episodes in, it's Ferengi. So interesting choice. Some of my favorite Star Trek characters have been Ferengi, so I was pleasantly surprised. But I wonder how other younger viewers interpret a conniving Ferengi being the first mini villain.
Yeah.
The episode again brought excellent visuals, good pace, following typical Star Trek themes with first contact protocols and backstabbing new antagonists. So yeah, overall I liked it again.
All right. For me, yes, new species, new spaceships, new villains, and a newly pissed off Janeway. I'm very much ready to dive in. Adam, do you have any pros for this episode? I'm assuming you do.
Yes, I have a pretty fleshed out series of notes, so I'll talk fast. My first pro is the Ferengi are introduced, which, again, like I said, is one of my favorite alien races, and this is only because I thought they were very well portrayed in DS9 as a constant source of comedic relief. I think it's another nod towards DS9. In the last episode, we saw a DS9 character on the ideal bridge that Dahl had for the Kobayashi Maru. So I think I'm glad that DS9 is getting more recognition within this series to a crowd of younger viewers which don't have a lot of experience in the Star Trek universe, which is great. So the Ferengi are introduced, and our crew, of course, is bamboozled by one right out the gate. The damsel being a Klingon Decorac-class starship, and I actually found that the Ferengi rule of acquisition number 192 is never cheat a Klingon unless you're sure you can get away with it. So I'm guessing Nandi got away with whatever she did to cheat that Klingon.
For now.
Or that Klingon crew, right? She obviously had the ship a while since it's been years since you've seen Dahl.
It's true.
Yeah. One more reference to DS9, my favorite episode from DS9. I guess really out of most Star Trek episodes is the magnificent Ferengi where Quark assembles the ragtag crew of Ferengi mercenaries to rescue Moogie. Which you guys reviewed. What did you call it? Weekend at Moogie's? Yeah. Okay, my second pro is the visual effects were on point, and the wind modeling and computational design were, again, exceptional. I noticed pretty early on that they paid, actually in the first episode, that they paid special attention to how the dust and sand and smoke was animated, and I've always loved that about Prodigy in particular. I know that Prodigy is the first real, robustly animated series, computer animated series in the Star Trek universe, and I think they're doing a great job with it. I actually did my master's in computational magnetohydrodynamics, which is fluid modeling, and some of the computations would take 9 days to render, and this was only a very small amount. So I'm not sure how they modeled all these wind and sand moving, but it must have been actually very computationally expensive. So you know that the fact that it was in the series means they really wanted it in there.
It was
good looking sand, good looking fluids. Yeah.
It seemed like it paid off. Yeah,
definitely. So the third is the writing in this one is a little more denser. There are real life consequences to Dahl's tomfoolery. The loss of their chimerium, which actually I just read today that David Mack was the one who introduced chimerium. He's the guy who wrote a bunch of the Star Trek books. He's a consultant on the writer team. He was the one who introduced the concept of chimerium. A disastrous first contact with a new alien race, and of course his ability to lie and deceive the crew to help a crooked figure from his past. So this episode does nothing to help his backstory at all. And then, of course, my fourth pro being the fun opening scene with the good one-liner from Zero as Murph is slowly sliding down the windshield. He just keeps going, doesn't he? Just said very well. Yeah. Oh, floor pie is a Simpsons reference.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Where Homer finds a piece of pie on the floor. He goes, floor pie. I also read that today.
Trust
that I thought it was really important to bring up.
Obviously. Is that the extent of your pros? All right, for me, I do have to start out and say that I love Chakotay's silver streak in his hair. I have to give it to him. He looks sharp, or he looked sharp. I don't know if he's gone or not, but very nice looking subtle change in him. Also, Prodigy gives us our first Ferengi. While she certainly isn't going to be a part of the crew, I do like her as a villain. And I'm really absolutely very glad that Nandi decided she was progressive enough to wear clothing. So, it's a pro.
Very conservative clothing, too.
More Dal backstory. I'm kind of softening to him. I feel bad for him. Just a touch. And I feel like I can see how the crew will be a really good family unit for his character development in the future. More on that later. Also, weaponized sand is a scary idea. I've been in a sandstorm before and it's nothing to laugh at, but otherwise, this is a beautiful planet. I loved everything about it. And I like how they made this, barren, sandy desert absolutely beautiful with these jutting rocks and sandy waves everywhere that they made just with sound, I guess.
Yeah, the sound waves. Yeah, the standing sound waves, yeah. I have a little tech trouble on that, but I'll talk about it later.
Well, then you can elaborate on it, but I, in my simple thoughts, thought it was really beautiful, and I hadn't seen that before. I thought it was an original idea. Yeah,
it definitely was.
Ultimately, it's a really good episode, and I like how it's kind of like showing kids who wouldn't have seen Star Trek before what transporter technology is, what replicators do, and it also shows them this week a classic new to them Star Trek species. And I don't know.
Yeah, they seem to be introducing a new standard canon piece of Star Trek.
They're building
every episode slowly.
Yeah. So I'm really pleased with our first season so far.
Yeah, me too.
But those are the extent of my pros. Adam, do you have any neutral zones for this week?
I do. My first is that Dal lied to the crew again. Mm-hmm. Ferengi rule of acquisition number 60 is keep your lies consistent. So he seemed to know quite a few of them, after not practicing for a while, interacting with Nandi. But I guess he forgot number 60, keep your lies consistent. So anywhere from deceiving them about the diplomatic mission to taking advantage of the alien race they made first contact with. I don't know. I think it could have been written a little differently. So my first neutral. Also, Nandi telling Pickpox to get out of her face. I bet you that little robot is always like buzzing around her face, and she always has to tell him to like get out of my face. So that made me crack up. But I just thought I'd throw that into that first neutral. Okay, my second is the entire episode was a step backwards for the crew. Not only did they destroy Starfleet's potential future encounters with this very sophisticated desert telepathic race, the Samari, they also lost all of their chimerium and opened up the risk of the Diviner being right back on their tail, which is going to happen because of contact with Nandi. So I will say that I don't think the Starfleet badge left on the crystal is a writing loose end. I think that scene was kind of in there on purpose. It might have an effect in later episodes.
Maybe. We don't even know what she was going to use the crystal for in the end.
Right, but no, I'm talking more about how the Starfleet badge remained on the crystal when it got transported back into the Samari cave.
Right, I'm saying, but that story could be open still with Nandi because we don't even know why she wanted it.
Yeah, I guess so. So yeah, the Remolite crystals, I wasn't able to find much on them. I think they're Prodigy cannons.
Cool.
Let's see here. And then my third neutral is if the crystals are really important, why do you leave them dangling in front of your visitors' faces?
They have never had visitors before. That's the whole point.
But surely they would have local rivals or like disgruntled teenagers in their alien race.
Peaceful species. I don't know, man.
So, I mean, without the crew there to stop it, it just would take one Ferengi landing on the planet to like completely dismantle their entire civilization, just by plucking all the crystals at once and running up. But that's beyond the point. That leads me kind of into Tech Tribble. So sound waves are essentially just excited molecules that bump into one another. And all sounds produced in a medium, like a gas, a liquid, or a solid. So in space, you wouldn't hear any sound because there are no molecules to bump against one another. So the Samari are said to use harmonics, which is just multiples of standing waves. I don't want to get into it, but it essentially is. It's very common in music and in communication. How we communicate with one another. The original base frequency, if it's multiplied by an integral multiple, it produces a harmonic. That's what it is. So I'm guessing I wasn't sure because when they said harmonics, that's a sound thing, and I wasn't sure why the tricorders were interfering with them, but I knew that the tricorders produce electrical fields, so it's probably the frequency of the electrical field was interfering with them, and that's why they were freaking out. So it had nothing to do with the sound.
Okay.
But what I'm trying to get at really is, can sound manipulate matter in real life like what we see in the episode? And the answer is absolutely. Resonant frequency is important in the study of civil engineering in bridges and buildings because buildings vibrate and that's sound just moving through solids. And so if the building or the bridge is incorrectly designed, the resonant frequency can become so intense that it rattles apart the structure itself. So that's one really important aspect in civil engineering.
And I am very thankful for.
Another is called acoustic levitation, and I encourage you to Google this because it's super cool. It's where you take ultrasonic frequencies and you can actually levitate objects in the air using only sound.
Huh.
Yeah. So, okay.
Creepy.
I'm done with my neutrals.
All right. I just had a couple, really. I liked that they used Murph for their experiment, but I hope that doesn't get, to be an old joke, and we don't see it anymore from him. And I also really hope that we get to see more Ferengis, and I double hope that they're going to lean towards, not being the typical greedy, grouchy, evil Ferengi. I think they're so funny as, bumbling sweethearts, and like you said,
Yeah, I mean, you have,
a good
Nog
Ferengi is so good.
Yeah.
And I think it could add some character. I don't know. I just hope we see more.
Me too.
But that's really it for me. I didn't have too many neutrals. Coming up after the break, we will delve into the cons, your comments, and our ratings. All right, we are back. Thank you for those wonderful commercials. Adam, would you like to dive right into your cons?
Of course. I only have a few. I thought it was a good episode, so it was hard coming up with cons that weren't inherently obvious, of course. The first was, the Protostar jumped 4,000 light years using new experimental warp technology that is unknown to most corporations or establishments or anything across the entire Delta Quadrant. And yet they somehow managed to directly run into the bumper of Dow's former captain. So thought that was a bit of a writing...
Bit of a coincidence.
Coincidence, small universe, as one article I read put it, which is a good way of putting it. So it's, from the pure aspect of probability, I consider it to be near impossible. The probability of running into someone like that with such a huge jump, just impossible. But so I thought it was a little far-fetched, but you know what? It's necessary for the narrative and the writing, and because of that, I'll give it a pass. But I do consider that to be writing con. The second, I don't think it was really necessary for the entire crew to be so dismantled by the first person that they run into after such a huge jump. And I would like some backstory on some of the other characters. We had huge progressional sweeps with Dahl and Gwen in the last episode, but we've been seeing these progressional sweeps with Dahl and Gwen the entire series.
Hardly know anything about Rock Talk.
Yeah, like Rock Talk or Murph or Zero, which, Zero was showcased to us in the first 2 episodes as being a very pivotal and important character, and yet still we haven't really learned anything about it. So, yeah, I consider that to be a con. And then, of course, this is a light con, but the 200% enhanced video imagery, come on.
CSI.
That is so just 2004 CSI. My parents sitting on the couch watching CSI kind of stuff. Can we just do away with that? There is no such thing. Okay, those are my cons.
Well said. For me, why is the ship so dirty?
Right?
It was
just
filthy.
a Cote.
No, at the beginning. Was it supposed to be?
No, I meant, it was just Chakotay hanging out on the ship. Does it really need to be that dirty, or is he kind of a messy guy?
I thought it was the kids leaving the mess.
Oh, maybe. I mean, they did live in a prison mine prior to this. So.
I mean, I know there are a bunch of youngins that just escaped the mines, but they're really pushing the fact that these are, gross and dumb teenagers. For me, it came across that's how they were living.
That's because, well, you know what the real reason is?
What?
That's because Murph
Move.
Murph ate all the robot Roombas. So there's no one to clean up their mess anymore. Really, not even a laugh?
That was my next joke. It was about Roombas, and you had to steal it. Can you just let me have my cons?
Your notes.
Okay, but I did leave the room, and my computer was open. Okay, we're moving past
Rule
this.
of acquisition number... Wait, hold on.
We're moving past this. Also, they're all just being very dumb right now. Why did none of them even try to stop Nandi from grabbing the crystals?
Yeah,
they put them back. Too, yeah. But why did none of them be
one
like,
tiny
stop, please? Yeah. You know, like, it's an old lady. Like, kick her in the back of the knee. I don't know. And I'm also kind of confused what level of influence Janeway has in this situation, because I feel like she should take more of a daycare teacher position at this point and start, like, really putting them in line. Some of these kiddos need a timeout.
Yeah, the breach of first contact protocol, isn't that considered, like, can't you be court-martialed if you...
Well, it kind of happens. The Prime Directive is
right.
A stretched line. I would really love to see her give a really good old-fashioned Janeway scolding, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Like, Dal got away just scot-free, and I'm hoping... I don't know. I'm getting tired of the doll.
These kids watching this show that
I don't know how the crew just forgives him right away. He put them in this humongous, unnecessary, dangerous position.
All their chimerium's gone. He lied to all of them.
It's like running a terrible pirate ship at this point. I'm really hoping that this changes. But those are my main cons. They're big, but not that many, I guess.
So, real quick, the holo scene, though, what do you think of the holo scene? Where Janeway pauses and enhances. And was that Dreadnought?
Yeah.
Okay. She didn't recognize him, so has she never seen Dreadnought? I thought she's seen them.
I mean, I don't think since her memory's been wiped.
Right. So
I don't think she's seen him.
It wasn't super clear to me. When I first watched the holo scene, I thought it was the real Janeway and Chakotay. But in the holo scenes, is that holo Janeway assisting Chakotay?
I think so.
Okay. That makes more sense.
Before she said, I don't think that you're my first captain.
Yeah, that makes more sense. So there is a data-based or unlocked version of Janeway that probably will be unlocked in later episodes.
I'm really hoping,
right,
because
password.
I feel like she would be a really cool mentor to these kids if she had a little bit more leeway. I'm going to move right on to our fan comments. Thank you, everyone, for writing in. We really appreciate hearing your thoughts on the episodes. I'm going to start off with Wayne Frazier. I was wondering, after such a powerful star-studded episode last week, if more normal episode would be a huge letdown. No, not at all. I think the show is finding its groove, and the more that it plays into the fact that these kids are teens who do what kids or teens do, the more I'm enjoying the show. My only negative is that I have no idea about the geography of this show. They supposedly traveled all the way from the Delta Quadrant to the Gamma Quadrant, a massive journey facilitated by an experimental engine, and the first person they meet is Dal's family.
Yeah. Me and Wayne
Popular
agree.
Thought. That combined with the wacky timeline confuses me, but may yet be explained.
I just think it's writing to fit the narrative.
We'll see. Barbara Whipple says the story of the ship and what happened to the original crew and why the Janeway hologram doesn't remember anything or everything is becoming more interesting. It's not just the shenanigans of the kids anymore, although transporting pie all around the ship still looks like a good game.
Not gonna lie, I thought that was pizza the first 3 times I watched it.
Like a deep dish?
Definitely look like a deep dish, yes.
You should order pizza.
You should.
Okay. Adam, what do you review this episode?
Well, I think I aligned with the silent majority, and that is I gave it 8 forgotten rules of acquisition.
Nice. Very good.
The visuals, alien race design were exceptional. I love the application of acoustic suspension and the new idea of the alien race, and I hope that next time to get more information on others in the crew, but a bamboozling Ferengi still brought a very good time.
All right, thank you. I also gave this episode an 8 pickpox blocks.
8 of them, huh?
8 of them. That would be terrifying. You couldn't walk
They
anywhere.
would be everywhere. Shooting little hologram screens all over the place, trying to get you to, like, buy into something.
Okay, that's terrifying. Do you have
ads.
a next time on or a deleted scene for...
My next time is the crew, without Chimerium and doubting Dal's ability to lead, starts trying out other members of the crew for captain. So, after picking randomly out of a hat, Rock Talk is chosen. Too wide to fit in the captain's chair, she's forced to stand the entire time on the bridge, and after a brief, simple conversation with Janeway, it's decided to travel to the nearest star system that has a planet recently scanned to reveal many small chihuahua-like critters on the surface. They land and find that indeed they are small, furry, gentle, cute, and slow-moving.
Aww.
Post-excursion, Rock Talk seems elated, having spent the afternoon with many small creatures, before cutting the final scene. The camera pans over to one of the deck's air vents, and a small bit of fur peeking out of one of the slats.
That's a whole episode. I love it. Alright, so next time, Janeway decides to hire a ship mom/counselor. Kind of like Lixwana's Mr. Hom, but kind of chatty and sweet, maybe smaller. Unfortunately, Dal finds out and switches the paperwork to get his own pick. Of course, Dal's pick turns out to be Dreadnought in an apron and a granny wig. Dreadnought! I'm Mrs. Dreadnought!
Stop it. Oh my god. I would so watch that.
Yeah. So how did Prodigy do this week? Using the combined average score of ourselves and you guys who voted at home, this week,
well,
how do we do,
everyone
Adam?
voted an 8 besides 2 people, but that doesn't matter because the unanimous average comes out to an 8.
Ta-da!
Pretty good.
That is pretty good.
Without a star-studded cast, only one notch below the last episode.
That's not bad.
So, yeah.
It's giving us consistency.
That means that people still liked it.
Yeah.
And didn't expect as much from it as the prior episode, I think, either. But, yeah.
And that will do it for this week. Star Trek Wars is available on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, and anywhere else fine podcasts are heard. You can also find us on Twitter at The Star Trek Wars. And if you'd like any Star Trek Wars merchandise, head over to redbubble.com or follow the link attached to this episode. Adam, it's always a pleasure. Thank you for doing this with me. The two of us will be back next week for the 8th episode of Prodigy. Until then, computer and log.
Well, hold on, Leta. Let's remember Ferengi rule of acquisition number 6. Never allow family to stand in the way of opportunity.
Thanks for listening to Star Trek Wars.